some of you didn't know that, that poll workers, the officials, cannot ask for identification. Guess who created that law? Willie Brown. And it's been law ever since, and it's working really well. In the country of Mexico, they have a voter registration card. It can be used once across the nation, and that cannot be used again. We have identification used when you board a plane, when you charge something with your credit card, but not when you go vote. One man. Now, here's what they're doing, and she explained part of it. There are people that precede the shills. They go in and find out who hasn't voted yet. They call back to headquarters. They have shills that go from polling place to polling place in small vans, buses, cars, pickup trucks, whatever. They don't go to Republican districts. They go to where they're friendly. That's why we need poll watchers in Democrat districts. Okay? One man won the prize in Kern County in 2002 by voting 23 times. His prize was a $100 bill, and he was very, very pleased. I didn't get to talk to him, but I did meet with one of his handlers. Very illustrative. One man admitted to me on the phone that he voted 4 times. I said, how come you voted 4 times? He said, well, Dean, I care more than most. And then he said, Dean, if we didn't cheat, we couldn't win. That's exactly why we're here tonight. And then he said something more informative than that. And he said, Dean, you will not do anything about it. They took several Democrats in Kern County that had been accused of voter fraud. They took one to trial, voted 2 or 3 times, I don't know what it was. They said she had no criminal intent. She had a bad memory, and she couldn't remember if she voted or not. Now, let me ask you something. You can only vote with one name one time, okay? But if you change your name a little, George Seha in Arvin is married to a lady by the name of Eleanor. He's also registered as Jorge Seha. Same address, same man, same age, same birthday. He's a twin. Okay. His wife, his name is Elena. They voted 4 times. She's not a citizen. 1 vote should have come out of that house. We got 4. Exactly, we need the purple thumb. 17 absentee ballots came out of 1 house in Delano. 3 people lived there. The man who lived there was elected to the city council of Delano by 3 votes. We had 66 people voted at an address of 300 Baker Street. Now, I was part of this little group. Once in a while I would get to go out and take a look and see what was happening. I went by 300 Baker Street. It's a furniture store. 66 people voted from there. Why? Because the lady that runs it is a Democrat activist. Okay? She has people walking up and down Baker Street, which is kind of a downtrodden area, and she talks to the homeless people, and she registers them to vote. Guess what their address is? There are 3 addresses on an absentee ballot. The address that you live at, the address you claim as your official residence, and the address you want the absentee ballot sent. That 3rd address is not public knowledge. Did you know that? A lot of the absentee ballots are being sent to union headquarters. Yes. Guess who counts the ballots? Service Employee International Union. In my race, we watched this SEIU donated $13,000 to my opponent and campaigned actively to see that she won. And they counted the votes. That's curious, just a mild curiosity. Now, in 2002, there was a broad estimate, there was a lot of study done on that election, and 1,200,000 people cast illegal votes in that election on the Democrat side of the ledger. 1,200,000 people in California. If it had not been for voter fraud, we would have had 7 Republicans elected to statewide office. We had 0. Now, 2 weeks before my election, I was 18 points in the lead. I hate to talk about my process, but we're using it as an example. I'm glad I'm not in Sacramento. I'm in Mento. 2 weeks before the election, I was 18 points in the lead with the phone surveys because we were talking to real people. When the ballots were cast, it was a totally different story. I lost by 197 votes. Curious. It was probably one of the most publicized races in California legislative history, one of the most expensive. I love the fact that they spent $8 million keeping me out of Sacramento. But if I had won that race, we wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't be here. We would not have done the study. We were curious about how they did it. Her scientific background, my scientific background, said, wow, that's wild. How did this happen? Yes, thank you. You know, I look at the fact that we have done more good by not winning that race than I could ever have done in Sacramento. We can do this. They told us we couldn't get Prop 13 through, and we did. We got Proposition 8 through, and we're not done yet. We found 7 people voted from a vacant lot. The house burnt down 5 years ago. They're still registered, and they vote from that address. I would love to. I've not been asked. Perhaps we should do that. In my race, there were 121,000 votes cast. If there had been no... Now, with a 3,000 vote sample, you're accurate within 2 percentage points if you do an extrapolation from that statewide, okay? You can be within 3 points nationwide with those kind of numbers. Most political surveys deal with 1,000 people and that's it. We had 3,000. We spent a year interviewing those people. One woman that I happened to go on was knocked on the door. She thought we were from animal control. She had some dogs that were unruly, and once she figured out we were not from animal control, she was very friendly. She said, no, there are not 7 people living here, just me and my husband and my teenage son. Well, you have 7 people registered to vote here. Oh, that's my 2 daughters and their husbands. Well, they don't live here? No. One daughter lives in Arkansas. The other one lives in Washington State. But they vote here. Have they lived here? No, they haven't lived here since they got married. They all have children now. But they're voting absentee from that address. One of the things we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to explain what is legal and what is not legal. You can only vote 1 time per election. It's not, you don't get extra points for voting more than once. Number 2, you have to be a citizen to vote. 5% of the votes we counted, the people we interviewed, were not citizens. You can't get your citizenship earlier if you register and vote. It doesn't help. But the United Farm Workers were telling people in the fields that if you register and vote, it will help you get your citizenship. You cannot vote if you are a felon. You cannot vote if you have a dishonorable discharge. You must vote from where you live, not where you want to live. You can only use 1 name. Those are the issues. It's not a cleverness game. This is real, folks. Our country's future is at stake. We saw in the election for the national election in 2008, whole cities where more people voted for Mr. Obama than actually live in those towns. You tell me that voter fraud is not rampant throughout the nation. Yeah, exactly. How many people voted when there were felons? Over 300 and lost by less than that as a margin? Yes, we saw that happening. Al Franken, yes. I don't want to take up more time than that. Do you have, Steve, where'd you go? Oh, yes, sir, go ahead. We were 2,600 votes ahead. We were nearly tied. It took 30 days to count all those votes after the election was over. And just 2 weeks after the election day, they actually accidentally found a bag of 700 ballots behind the door at the election office in Bakersfield. Guess where those came from? SEIU.
If you're interested in reading a book on voter fraud, pick up the biography of Lyndon Johnson, Path to Glory and Means of Ascent. It's a 2-volume book. It will open your eyes. Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions in my mind. Number 1, what if a voter against the voter shows up at the poll when he still has voted in his place?
What happens is he's given a provisional ballot, and then the election office has to decide whether he's trying to vote twice or not. I do not know whether they actually compare the signature that would be on the outside of the provisional ballot with the signature in the book. I would assume that they do, but he gets a provisional.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
The SEIU, the county assembly of the books,
Yes.
did they do this on behalf of the elections office, or did they do this on their own behalf?
The SEIU is the union that has all of our civil employees as members in it.
All right.
So, you know, that gets me off on a little tangent here. Okay. We pay the public sector more money, and they have greater job security and better benefits than the private sector does. Why do they need a union? Precisely. Thank you so much.